The edit window located at the bottom of the interface just above the transfer bar can be opened by double-clicking a block in the sequencer or by using the button in the transfer bar that toggles its visibility. It will allow you to edit the blocks of your arrangement, cut and edit audio, write MIDI and automation data. Depending on the content of the block you opened, the editor will present you with different options for editing. In the case of editing an audio file, these are the options presented. The pitch slider can increase or decrease the pitch of the audio by up to 24 semitones, preserving its length. The stretch slider can increase or decrease the speed of the audio block, preserving its pitch. You can also adjust the stretch by moving the blue stretch point at the end of the file. Provided for you are 4 pitch stretch algorithms to choose from, using this button on each track in the track list. You can place stretch points with the Draw tool and move them with the Select tool. When using the Snap to Beat version of the Draw tool, which you get by clicking the Draw tool again, stretch points will snap to beats. They will also snap to grid divisions if Snap is checked. Double-clicking any of the sliders resets them. Fade in and fade out sliders adjust the fade in or fade out of the audio. There is also an option to grab and drag these dots at each end of the file. Above both of the fade sliders, you will find a toggle button that will allow you to choose the curve type for the fade. Further, you can use the convexity points to change the convexity of those fades. The units for the fades here are a representation of the fade time, where 1 equates to the whole block of audio rather than an absolute value of time. This spin box will show you the value of any selected fader in the editor. You can also use it to manually input the value for any selected fader or use these arrows on the sides. Gain slider will let you increase or decrease the gain of the audio by a maximum of 24 decibels. You can also use these arrows for the same purpose. Activating this button right next to the gain fader will allow you to write automation for the gain fader within the block itself. Just change to the Draw tool right after activating it and draw in new automation points. Now onto these buttons. The first one, called Reverse, will render the audio between the left and right markers and reverse it so that it plays backwards. The Invert button will invert the waveform vertically, changing its polarity, making all the negative values positive and vice versa. When enabled, the Loop button will repeat the audio between the left and right loop markers indefinitely as you extend that block's boundaries in the sequencer. Finally, the Bounce button will render the audio between the left and right loop markers into a new audio file with all the changes you made in it applied. These blue markers on top of the waveform are beats calculated by the beat detection algorithm. If you select more than one audio block in the sequencer and you press the Merge button to merge them, they would form a new merged block. When looking at such a block in the editor, you would see that most of the controls that we saw for the audio editor are still present, with the addition of the Unmerge button, which would effectively unmerge this merged block and present you with separated audio blocks. Using merge blocks like this allows the user to have an easier workflow when dealing with the arrangement. Within the merge block, you can still copy and paste or duplicate audio blocks, adjust their gain, fades, or their position. The MIDI editing window is quite different from the one for editing audio. What stays the same is the crop mechanism, reflecting everything in between these left and right loop markers to be the block you see within the sequencer. This spin box will identify and display the pitch of a selected MIDI note. Use the arrows on the side of the spin box to transpose that note by an octave up or down. Of course, you can also type in your custom value into the box as well. The Equal button will change all selected notes to be equal to the leftmost selected one. The value spin box has a similar functionality, but it refers to the note's velocity. The side arrows will increment the identified value by 1. Typing in a custom value is also possible. This equal button right here will apply, in this case, the note velocity value of the leftmost selected note to all of the selected ones. The position equal button will make sure that all of the selected notes align to the position of the leftmost selected one. The length equal button will also apply the length of the leftmost selected note to all of the selected ones. These next function buttons have many creative uses. Making the MIDI sequence half of its length or doubling it, reversing the order of selected notes, or all of them if none are selected in a block. You can also vertically invert your MIDI sequence of all the selected notes, or all of them if none are selected. Legato shortens or lengthens the selected MIDI notes so that they end as the next one begins. The duplicate function copies all of the MIDI information within the crop mechanism and pastes it directly to the right of the existing MIDI information. This automation button will show you the automation for the MIDI controller you can see selected in this next drop-down menu. It allows you to select a MIDI parameter that you want to automate. Amongst more commonly used ones are the pitch bend, modulation, or aftertouch. A thing to notice is that when you're editing the MIDI controller, you can use this value equal button, and that will make all the selected points have the same value as the leftmost selected one. The selected point's value can be seen in this value spin box. Select All button will select all the MIDI information in the editor, and Loop, when enabled, will duplicate the crop portion of the MIDI information indefinitely in the sequencer as you extend the block's boundaries. The Fold button will hide all the unused MIDI note rows in the MIDI editor. Fold Preset opens this dialog that can be used to save or load a fold preset pattern in the MIDI editor. Within this dialog, you can create new categories for your presets, rename them, save presets, save them under a different name, set a preset as default, which will load that preset onto every newly created MIDI track. You can rename a preset, and you can import from or export your presets to your local hard drive. This feature is really useful if you're using a lot of drum machines that have drums available only in specific notes of the keyboard. This way you can save those presets for future use. The Scale button opens a dialog that allows you to create and load musical scale presets. Once loaded, a scale will limit the notes available in the MIDI editor to the ones used in the selected scale. In the first part of this editor, you select a root note for your scale, then a category, and finally the scale you want to load. You can also create a custom scale by selecting or deselecting notes in this editor right here and then saving it. The rest of the functionality in this editor are the same as in the Fold Preset editor or any other preset editor in SoundBridge. This Clear Piano Roll button will remove the scale or a fold preset that has been loaded to the track. An important thing to mention is that the notes or controller points will snap to grid if snap is on. The automation editing window has some things in common with the MIDI editing window. The Default 2 spin box sets the default value for the parameter to which it will return after the automation block has ended. The Value spin box displays the value of the selected automation point. The Equal button does the same as for the MIDI notes, setting the value of all selected points to the leftmost selected one. You can adjust the value by using the side arrows or by typing it in. Let's expand on this explanation. Right here, I have two automation blocks where you can see that the automation values are pretty high up top, and you will see this parameter follow that automation. What is really important is that when there are no blocks in that automations lane, the value for that parameter is always going to go back to this default 2 value. The Position spin box handles the automation point's position in time in a similar manner. The first number marks the bar, second one, quarter note, third one, 16th note, the last one, a number between 0 and 119, which represents the duration of 1/16th note. The equal button will adjust the position of all selected automation points to the leftmost selected one. When the snap feature is turned on, the increments for the side arrows will follow the beat selector setting. With the snap off, the increments are 0 to 119 in the last column. The convexity spin box controls the convexity value for the selected curvature point. The equal button will make sure that the convexity values for all the selected points equal the leftmost selected one. Select All button will select all of the automation points within the editor. And if loop is enabled, all automation information within the crop mechanism will be repeated indefinitely as you extend that block's borders.